Thank you so much for joining me today on Just Praise Him Radio. I'm your host, Glenda Lomax, and my job is to inspire you to a closer walk with Christ. Now here's the show. Welcome to the Just Praise Him Radio show. I'm your host, Glenda Lomax, and I have a special treat for y'all this week. I have my very good friend Manyrounds with me, and we are going to do an update on the coming war, which I think is extremely timely right now. Welcome to the show, Manyrounds.
Well, thank you, Glenda. It's good to be here again.
We're really glad to have you. So give us the latest. You know the facts a lot better than I do of where we're at. I've been hearing little peeks of this and that on the news. And what really made me aware is a friend of mine sent me some stuff off Hal Turner today, and it was jaw-dropping, just jaw-dropping about B-52 bombers.
Right. I think they were B-2 bombers.
Were they B-2s? Okay, maybe
Yeah.
I misunderstood wrong.
It wouldn't surprise me if there's B-52s there as well, because, I don't think they want to lose their first line bombers right off the bat, but
no doubt.
But they, I personally, where I live sort of in the north end of the South, you might say.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen B-52s the last couple of days. I saw a pair, and then I saw one being refueled heading west, and then another pair all in the same day. So I was like, that's pretty, unusual in the middle of the day to see that. But
yeah, I would think.
Yeah, and I mean, they have a very distinct sound when they go over, so you can tell it's one of them.
I did not know that.
Yeah, but they're moving a lot of gear around, and
so who's threatening who, and what is going on this whole war thing?
Well, it's
as far as we know,
I think God's timetable is the hourglass is running out, or his clock is ticking. I mean, it's like we don't have a lot of time really, and there's certain things that are going on in Europe and in the East, and Russia and Africa as well, and they're just ramping up for war. Everybody and their brother seems to be hell bent on getting into a war, and there's no off ramp. There's nobody's taking any off ramps, you might say, and it's that time. I mean, it's that time, and but what I think is happening overall is that in the book of Revelation, it speaks of the Antichrist, right? Mm-hmm. And it speaks of in Daniel, it speaks of this king that will be the king at the end. He's a vile person, and he is making movements, here and there against other nations, right? And some of the nations are more powerful than he would like to take on at the moment. It seems to me when I'm reading it, and he has to kind of backtrack and then focus on his own country, you might say, and then clamp it down and then continue on somewhere else where he can. So it's not everybody is on the same page with the Antichrist, is what I'm saying. Okay. He's going to have opposition against what he's doing. So the beast system is going to go through some bumps before it becomes, the system that is running the world, you might say, or running a good portion of the world. Okay. And now the United States, as it is right now, is really one of the largest impediments to that beast system rising. So they need to get rid of the United States system the way it is. And that's pretty much what we're watching happen, is a lot of these movements in the political arena are geared toward eliminating the United States political system and changing it over into something that we're not going to like, which is basically a tyranny. And in order to do that, what I can see happening is we're so close to, everybody can, I think everybody can sense it. I mean, most people, even if they're not Christians, they can sense that something's off and that something is coming. They don't necessarily know what it is, but they can feel it, because it's like, the two spiritual entities are at battle. We don't see this battle going on, but it is going on, and it's starting to manifest in the physical. So, it's unraveling. I mean, the sheet metal's coming off the plane. It's heading to the ground really quick. So, what you have is them working at getting rid of the United States. So, what we're seeing is a lot of our gear and a lot of our personnel being drawn in over there to certain areas in the Middle East and in the Pacific, and it's like an ambush. Okay, it's this whole thing is one large military op, and it's been going on for 30 years. Because the opposing forces that are against us, you're talking Russia and China, that are the main ones, right? And then they've got their subordinates, you might say, that are Iran, North Korea, some of the more the bloc that's inclined to side with the Russians and the Chinese, okay? Because a lot of them, even some other leaders that may not be privy to what's happening, they're looking at the United States and they're looking at Russia and China, and they can see, that things are changing in favor of the Russia-China bloc, as far as economics and things like that. And so they're siding with them. They're starting to side with them, and the dollar is getting weaker. And I mean, the sanctions that we sanctioned against Russia, in a way, backfired big time, because Russia just said, you know what, we don't need your dollar, and we can still do this without your help or without your assistance and all this other stuff. And we've in other words, we have created a Frankenstein that's worse than the Frankenstein we had before. And so,
that's not good.
Yeah, and so they're becoming a lot more independent, and their economy, is actually pretty strong, and China's is robust. It's just they have some difficulties in as they're intermixed with our economy and some of the other economies, and then there's the whole oil issue. But when all this kicks off, the bottom line is we're gonna get bloody, and the United States military, okay, we have a lot of gear that is aging. Okay, we have a lot of carriers that
is so true.
They're lacking in some maintenance levels, and I'm sure they're fudging the books a little bit as far as just how up to par they really are. I mean, I've seen photographs of our ships that I would never have seen 25 years ago, where there's rust just dripping off the edges of the boat, And when I was in, man, we had that thing painted, We had the boys out there with the chipping guns, myself included, constantly maintaining the outside appearance of the ship. And because not only are you maintaining the appearance, but you're maintaining the mechanical ability for it to function. So, when you look at a rust bucket, you're thinking, well, man, who's the CEO of that boat? He ought to be replaced. Boom. I mean, back in my day, it was like, that CEO's gone, put somebody else in charge. We need to clean this boat up, I mean, it's embarrassing. You have a flagship of the United States rolling into a port in an overseas country, and they watch it come in, and it's a rust bucket. What does that say? It doesn't.
Nothing good.
Nothing good. Yeah. And so it's like, Well, if that's the current state of things, how they are, somebody's not doing their job, and usually it's the top, from the top down. I mean, I don't know what it is. I don't know who's in charge, or who has been in charge, but it's not working. Okay, so now we're in a situation where we have a lot of ships and a lot of aircraft and all this kind of stuff it's aging, and it's breaking down, and now we've got problems with keeping people of quality ability in the shipyards and in some of the other manufacturing arenas where a lot of this stuff is produced. And I mean, our education system is creating an issue there, because now we don't have quality people that are available to replace some of the aging machinists and high-tech level occupations to keep our military running. Okay,
so we're not in great shape, but talk to us about Iran.
Well, okay, so what you have now, you've got Iran, who has been working for 30 years, that I know of, on getting the nuclear weapons built. Okay, now in World War II, it took us 3 years roughly to get a nuclear weapon tested and then used. Okay, I mean, and it's like the Iranians are very smart people, and they have resources. They have connections with Russia and probably China. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm sure, and they have a good education system. I mean, these are very smart people. I used to know some, that I knew that were, mechanics and hardworking people, and they're very sharp. They know how to get things done. So it's like, what is the real reason that we're going over there and messing with Iran? Because it isn't because they don't have a nuclear weapon and they're about to get one. They've had one. Okay, that's all a bunch of baloney. They've had one for probably years, and they may have 10. They may have more than that, but it's like a moot point, really. It's like, why are we the nuclear police, as you said?
I've wondered about that for quite a while. Why do we think we can police the world?
Right, to dictate who can have a nuclear weapon, who can't. I mean, there's been agreements and there's been treaties and all this other stuff. And well, if they got a nuclear weapon, they got a nuclear weapon. It's too bad, but who's going to go in there and take it from them? I mean, and it's like, what's the real reason they're doing all this? And how is Israel entwined in all of this, and really entwined in it? And so there's something going on behind the scenes in the dark rooms, that is causing all this commotion. So, but nevertheless, they're drawing us in. They're drawing us over there, and we've got a base in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. I can't think of the name of it right off the bat, but it's got everything that we would have on any base here in the United States, and it's a large base, and there's thousands of troops there, and there's probably a lot of armor sitting there, and helicopters, gunships, and all kinds of gear, and communications gear, drone facilities, all of that, everything that a large army would need to project power somewhere. Okay, but the thing about it is, it's a two-way street. It's also a big target, and it's not very far from Iran. I mean, it's just over the Persian Gulf, boom, and a missile could be there in minutes. And if that missile has a nuclear warhead on it, well, that whole base is gone, just like that.
Wow.
Yeah. And now we have two carrier task groups going over there right now, and I think there's going to be a third heading that way. They're probably going through a fit rep or something right now, but which means basically they're resupplying the boat, and they're re-gearing, and they're giving their people a little liberty time to go kiss mama and then get back on board. So,
Okay.
but they're going to be leaving pretty soon, I imagine. And when they do, it's probably on like Donkey Kong. I mean, three carrier task groups, you're talking probably 10 ships per task group or strike group. And that's 30 ships besides the carriers. And then you've probably got about 6 submarines that go with them. And, all the Russians have to do is park a couple of Akula class submarines down in a trench somewhere under there and wait until our boats pass by. And once they pass by, just float to the surface and launch a few torpedoes into the stern of the boat, and you've got a sitting duck, and if they do it right, they can do it without even revealing their positions until after it's too late, and you knock out the propulsion system of an aircraft carrier and they can't conduct flight operations anymore because they need that extra speed for the lift of the aircraft taken off the deck. Now some aircraft may be able to take off depending upon the direction the ship is pointed, if the wind is enough. But if it's not, those planes are going to have a hard time getting off the deck.
Yeah, they're just going to fall in the water.
What's that?
They'll just fall in the water.
Well, it's possible. I don't know for a fact, but I know that carriers always point into the wind when they want to do flight ops. And the reason is because they want to get that extra 20-mile-an-hour wind, coming at them, 20 knots or 30 knots, so that they can get an extra lift on those planes. By the time that plane gets at the end of the flight deck, it's already got enough speed and lift to just keep going up, It's a little risky to launch a plane without any wind on a dead day with the boat not moving. I wouldn't want to do it because, you're taking a chance on losing a multi-million-dollar plane and a pilot.
Yeah.
And, it's just, plus the boat's just dead in the water and it's going to have a serious bunch of problems going on that boat besides just not moving. I mean, you're going to be possibly out on some electronic gear. I don't know, but then they're going to be looking for missiles, right? And missiles are going to fly. I mean, the Iraqis have missiles, the Houthis have missiles, and nobody really knows what they have. But I would gather to say the Iranians have some pretty highly technical fast movers that will hit the ships. I mean, you throw so much at it, it's going to be overwhelmed at some point. And then once it hits, if it hits a key spot, like let's say the base of the island, well, a lot of the control gear and aircraft control is in that island. And, that's going to cause a lot of havoc right there. And they could use other missiles that come in low and then straight up into the sky and then do a U-turn and then come straight back down into the deck and blow holes in the flight deck. And that deck is only a couple inches thick. And, I mean, back in the day, back in the 60s, the Enterprise had a catastrophic fire on board, almost, caused it to sink. Somebody parked a one of those yellow plane movers, the exhaust pipe. Well, he parked the exhaust pipe too close to a 500-pound bomb, and it went off.
Oh.
And then rockets started. Now the whole flight deck was full of planes, and the rockets on these planes started skirting across the deck and hitting the other side of the boat where those planes were. And those planes were loaded with ordnance too. And so you're talking a chain reaction of weapons just going off all over the flight deck. And I saw film of it, and I'll tell you what, there were guys that were running 1 second, and the next second they were gone. That was it. They disappeared. And they were throwing millions of dollars of aircraft right overboard, right into the water. And they had a heck of a time putting the fire out because it was everywhere. And a lot of the fire control at that time, it wasn't all that sophisticated, but they have improved their firefighting capability since then. But you're talking. It's a very high value target. An aircraft carrier is like, if they can manage to sink one of those, it's like they've just put a big giant feather in their cap, and that is sort of part of the motivation behind what they're doing. And our other support ships that are going to be around that are going to get hit too. You're talking destroyers,
absolutely,
frigates, support ships that do re-equipping the boats with aircraft fuel and all that, and they're very, very, very flammable. Okay, you're talking these ships are filled with avgas, which is a very flammable.
Airplane fuel is highly flammable, from what I've heard.
And you have a ship full of it, and it gets hit with a missile, it's not going to react really well. And you're just going to have this gigantic catastrophe. And then on top of that, they can hit a lot of oil wells in Saudi, and cause another catastrophe and hit our bases. And all of this can happen in minutes, literally minutes. So,
is that if Iran decides to attack us, how do you think they would attack? What do you think is the most likely?
I think they would. Those missiles, they travel real fast nowadays, and I'm sure they got them. So, it's going to be a bloodbath. And a lot of people, in our military and in our country, period, they have this sense of pride, in our military, which is, well deserved and all that. I'm not taking anything away from that, but it's a little bit delusional, okay? Because we can be hit, and we will be hit, and we're going to lose a lot of people in a short period of time. And I'll tell you what, the news media is probably not going to want. They're going to be a little hesitant and wondering how they're going to report this. You know what I mean? But they're not going to have any choice, because the truth is going to be coming out in other countries. Yep. And they're going to have to spill their guts out and say, look, this is what just happened. And then, the level of grief that's going to hit this country when that happens is going to be tremendous. And it's going to happen from San Diego to Boston, because all these kids that are on these boats are from everywhere across the country. They've been recruited from recruiting centers in Boise, in Des Moines, in Miami, wherever there's a recruiting station, that's where these kids are from. All 50 states. So you're going to have a lot of tremendous upheaval with people's emotions. Okay, so that's something that, as Christians, we're going to have to be on the lookout for, and realize that, if we can do something, do it, but be really sensitive to these people that have just lost, a very important part of their life. It's going to be really, really, really hard. And, it's going to be awful. I sometimes I can sense it. Or like sometimes when I've had like a vision or a dream of it, it'll hit me with the knowing of just how it felt, how it will feel in reality for a lot of people. And it's like somebody took a knife and just shoved it right in your chest. It's hard to explain, but so basically, to get back to this setup, it's an ambush. We're walking into a trap. We're walking right into an ambush. And Taiwan's the same story, okay? Because once this whole thing kicks off in the Middle East, China's going to see, hey, guess what? America's really busy right now, and they just got slammed. So let's go take Taiwan, you know.
Oh,
And they've
oh.
got plans. I mean, one may happen before the other. Who knows? We may go to war with China before this other thing kicks off. I'm not quite sure how that's going to work out, but I do know that all the other you might say enemies in the United States are going to take advantage of it. They're going to take advantage of the situation, and things are going to, things may not be that great.
They would be stupid not to, honestly.
Yeah. And things might be a little bit dicey here in the United States, even before all this takes place. There could be some large, you might say, attack that's orchestrated here in the United States to create a situation of confusion and problems that we will have to deal with, right? That will lock this country down in martial law quicker than you can say, Alice in Wonderland. I mean, it's just going to be overnight. You're going to have a martial law. If there were a serious attack, and others have seen a serious attack. I mean, Dmitry Duduman, Henry Gruber, many others have
They
seen,
saw stuff like that happening to us.
Yeah, and it's like the way, I think it was Dmitry Duduman. He had this vision about an eagle that got nailed by a snake, right? And it got nailed in the wing, but it shook it off, and then it killed a bunch of the snakes. Okay, but the second time, the second snake was bigger, and it took a big chunk of the wing right out of the eagle. And the eagle was stunned, and then the eagle was so stunned that the other eagles came. I mean, the other snakes came about and started attacking the eagle, and the eagle went down, and that was the last of, that was it. The eagle was dead. So I don't think the second attack has happened yet. The first one was 9/11, but the second one could happen any minute right now. I mean, because I see this ramping up of all this war talk and all this gear moving around, and I'm like, well, they're gearing up for a war, but
tell us about the equipment movements, because most of us don't keep up with any of that or don't know about it.
About the equipment.
Mm-hmm. What's being moved and where?
Well, I know from Hal Turner's site, give him credit there, because he was on top of it before anybody else was, and
he stays on top of everything.
Yeah, but it was in his covert intel, so it was like, it's like he was letting his subscribers know ahead of time of the regular press, okay? Because the regular press wasn't privy to it, and they weren't going to be reporting it probably for another day or two, and that's exactly what happened. So, he knew about it before pretty much anybody else, and it was basically like, I don't know, 15 of these, 10 bomber, 10 B-2s, and a lot of other support aircraft like refuelers and C-17 transport planes, and they're bringing a lot of hardware over there.
Thank you so much for tuning in today to Just Praise Him Radio, sponsored by the friends and supporters of JPH. You can contact me by mail at my new address, Glenda Lomax, JPH Inc., P.O. Box 854, Altus, that's Altus, Oklahoma 73522, or by email at jphtoday@gmail.com. Don't forget to visit the website for prophetic updates at wingsofprophecy.blogspot.com. JPH is not affiliated with any nonprofit organization, church, or denomination. Have you ever gone through a time in your life where suddenly it just felt like your whole life was falling apart? I call these experiences the wilderness experiences. Wilderness experiences are a time of great uncertainty and change. There are times when our faith is tried and refined. After many experiences, the Lord spoke to me to write the Wilderness Companion, which is a virtual roadmap through the desert times of your life. Find out why you've been led to the wilderness. Find out what the biggest hindrance is to receiving provision in the wilderness. Find out what the 7 temptations of the wilderness are. Drastically cut the time you spend in the wilderness by learning how to partner with the Lord instead of working against Him. Every Christian needs to read The Wilderness Companion. It's by Glenda Lomax, and it's available on Amazon.com or wingsofprophecy.com. Amazon.com, The Wilderness Companion by Glenda Lomax.